If you are still working and already collecting Social Security, you are probably losing money right now, and nobody at the Social Security office is going to call you to explain it. In 2026, the number is exactly $24,180. That is how much you can earn this year before Social Security starts taking your check away from you, $1 at a time. Most people find out about this rule the hard way. They get a letter. The letter says they were overpaid. The letter asks for the money back. This is not a small program with a handful of people affected. Millions of Americans claim Social Security before their full retirement age, and a large share of them keep working, at least part-time. Some do it because they need the income. Some do it because they are bored sitting at home after 30 or 40 years on the job. Either way, the moment that paycheck and that Social Security deposit land in the same year, this rule is active, whether anyone told you about it or not. This video is going to walk you through exactly how this rule works, who it hits the hardest, what happens to your Medicare premium and your taxes while all of this is going on, and the one part of it that almost nobody uses, even though it could save them thousands of dollars this year alone. Stay until the end. The last thing I'm going to show you is a rule buried inside Social Security's own handbook that most financial advisors do not even bring up, and it can change how much of your check survives your first year of retirement. Before we get into it, hit subscribe. Here's why that actually matters this time. Social Security changes these numbers every single year. The earnings limit for 2026 is not the same as it was in 2025, and it will not be the same in 2027. Nobody at Social Security sends you a letter explaining what changed. They just apply the new number and expect you to already know it. This channel tracks every one of those changes as they happen, so you are not the last person in Florida to find out your check got smaller. Let me tell you about Walter. Walter is 64 years old. He spent 30 years working for the Postal Service in Tampa, and 2 years ago, he decided to start his Social Security retirement benefit early, at 62. His wife had already retired, his mortgage was paid off, and the extra check every month felt like breathing room after 3 decades of shift work. He also picked up part-time work at a hardware store, a few miles from his house, mostly because he was bored sitting at home, and mostly because the extra cash helped with his property insurance bill, which had climbed every single year since he bought the place. Walter did not think twice about mixing the two incomes. He figured Social Security was Social Security, and his paycheck from the hardware store was a completely separate thing, earned fair and square, none of the government's business. It is not separate. In 2026, Walter earned about $34,000 at the hardware store, working 3 or 4 days a week at the register and in the paint department. Social Security's limit for someone his age is $24,480. That means Walter went over the limit by $9,520. Social Security's rule is simple and brutal. For every $2 over the limit, they take back $1 of his benefit. $9,520 over the limit means Social Security takes back $4,760 of the Social Security income Walter already thought was his for the year. Walter did not lose that money to a scam. He did not lose it to a bad investment. He lost it because he did not know a federal rule existed, and nobody at Social Security told him. He found out in the spring when a letter arrived asking him to confirm his 2026 earnings, followed a few weeks later by a notice that his benefit would be reduced to recover the difference. This is not rare. This is not a one-time mistake by one unlucky retiree in Tampa. This happens to hundreds of thousands of Americans every single year, and the reason is always the same. Social Security assumes you already know the rule. They do not mail you a warning before you go over the limit. They do not call you when your part-time hours creep up in December. They wait. They calculate what you earned for the whole year. And then they adjust your benefit, sometimes months later, sometimes as a demand for repayment. Now, before you assume this does not apply to you, let me clear up the 2 things everybody assumes wrong. First, this is not just for low-income retirees who need every dollar. High earners get hit by this exact same rule. And because their part-time or consulting income is usually higher, they often lose more in total dollars than someone working a smaller job. A retired executive picking up consulting work can lose far more of their benefit than Walter does, dollar for dollar, simply because the income is bigger. Second, this is not just for people who quit a full career and picked up something small on the side. It also hits people running their own small business, people doing seasonal work, real estate agents closing a few deals a year, snowbirds who rent out a second property, and consultants getting occasional contracts. If money hits your Social Security number as earned income, and you are collecting benefits before your full retirement age, this rule is watching every dollar. This applies to you whether you are barely making ends meet or sitting comfortably with a paid-off house and a pension on top. Nobody is exempt from this one based on how much they already have, and nobody is exempt based on how little they have either. Here is the first thing you need to understand, and it is the foundation for everything else in this video. This rule, called the earnings test, only applies to you if you are collecting Social Security retirement benefits before you reach what is called your full retirement age. Full retirement age depends on the year you were born. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you were born between 1955 and 1959, it is somewhere between 66 years and 2 months and 66 years and 10 months, depending on the exact year. Once you actually reach that age, this entire rule disappears. You can earn $1 million a year, and Social Security will not touch a single check. But if you are under that age and collecting early, the earnings test is active, and in 2026, the number is 24,180 for the full year. Here is exactly how the math works, and I want you to do this math for your own situation right now, not later. Take your expected earnings for 2026. That means wages if you are employed, or net self-employment income if you work for yourself. Subtract 24,180. Whatever is left over, cut it in half. That number is what Social Security is going to take back from your benefit this year. If you expect to earn $40,000 in 2026, subtract 24,180, and you get $15,520. Cut that in half, and you get $7,560. That is how much of your Social Security check disappears this year, dollar for dollar, because of this one rule. Here is what to do right now. Call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213 and ask them to run your specific earnings estimate through the annual earnings test, or log into your account at ssa.gov and use the earnings estimate tool under your benefits page. Do this before the year ends, not after you already got the overpayment letter. The second piece of this rule, almost nobody in Florida knows, and it applies specifically in the year you actually turn your full retirement age. If you are going to hit your full retirement age sometime in 2026, the rule changes in your favor, but only for the months before your birthday. The limit jumps up to $65,060, more than double the regular limit. And instead of losing $1 for every $2 over, you only lose $1 for every $3 over. On top of that, only the earnings from January up through the month before you actually turn your full retirement age get counted. Everything you earn after that month does not count against you at all. Here is what to do. If your 67th birthday or your specific full retirement age birthday falls anywhere in 2026, call 1-800-772-1213 and tell them the exact month you reach full retirement age. Ask them to apply the higher limit and the reduced withholding rate for that transition year. Do not let a Social Security representative apply the regular $24,480 limit to your whole year by mistake. It happens, and it costs people real money. Now here is the part that should make you feel a little better, because so far this video has been all bad news. The money Social Security takes from you under this rule is not gone forever. When you reach your full retirement age, Social Security goes back and recalculates your monthly benefit. They treat every month they withheld a payment, as if you had simply chosen to start your benefit that much later. Since waiting longer to claim Social Security always means a bigger monthly check, this recalculation raises your benefit for the rest of your life, starting the month you hit full retirement age. Here is what this means for Walter. Social Security withheld $4,660 from him this year. He does not get that as a lump sum check in the mail. Instead, when Walter reaches his full retirement age, his monthly benefit permanently goes up to reflect the months that were withheld. How much that raise adds up to over the rest of his life depends on how long he lives after the adjustment. If he lives a long life, he can recover the full amount, and then some. If he does not, he recovers less. Either way, this is not a penalty you pay and never see again. It is closer to Social Security holding your money and giving it back to you later, spread out over your future checks. Here is what to do. Do not panic and stop working just because you hit this rule. Understand that the withholding is temporary and plan your finances around the fact that your check goes up permanently once you reach full retirement age. Here is where most people in Florida get burned, and it has nothing to do with the rule itself. It has to do with reporting. Social Security does not automatically know what you are going to earn this year. They ask you to estimate it, usually when you first apply for benefits, and they expect you to update that estimate if your actual income changes. Most retirees never touch that estimate again after the day they filed. Then tax season comes, Social Security matches your Social Security number against your W-2 or your self-employment tax return, and they discover you earned far more than you told them. That is when the overpayment letter shows up. Sometimes demanding thousands of dollars back within 30 days. Here is what to do the moment your work hours or income change for the year, up or down. Log into your account at ssa.gov and update your earnings estimate under the earnings test section, or call 1-800-772-1213 and give them the new number directly. This takes about 10 minutes, and it is the single easiest way to avoid a surprise overpayment letter landing in your mailbox next spring. Now here is the one rule I told you to stay for, the one almost nobody in Florida uses, and it can matter more than everything else in this video, combined if you retired partway through this year. It is called the monthly earnings test, and it only applies during your very first year of collecting Social Security. Instead of judging your entire year's earnings against the $24,280 annual limit, Social Security lets you use a monthly limit instead, which in 2026 works out to $2,040 a month. Here is why this matters. Say you worked a full, well-paying job through June of this year, then retired and started collecting Social Security in July. Under the regular annual rule, your January through June paycheck could easily push you over $24,408 for the year and wipe out months of your benefit. But under the monthly rule, Social Security only looks at what you earned in the months after you started your benefit. If you earned under $2,040 in July, August, September, October, November, and December, you get your full Social Security check for every one of those months, even though your total income for the entire year was well above $24,400. This rule exists specifically to protect people in their first year of retirement, and Social Security will not apply it for you automatically. Here is exactly what to do. Call 1-800-772-1213 and specifically ask the representative to apply the monthly earnings test for your first year of benefits instead of the annual earnings test. Say those exact words, monthly earnings test, first year of retirement. If you do not ask for it directly, some representatives will default to the annual test, and you could lose months of benefits you were legally entitled to keep. There is a second trap sitting right next to the earnings test, and almost nobody connects the two. Your Medicare Part B premium is not a separate bill floating out there somewhere. For most retirees, it comes straight out of your Social Security check before that check ever reaches your bank account. In 2026, that premium is $292.90 a month for most people. Here's the problem. If the earnings test reduces your Social Security payment down to a small amount, or all the way to zero for a few months, Social Security still needs to collect that Medicare premium from somewhere. When your check is not large enough to cover it, Social Security does not just forget about the premium. They send you a direct bill instead, and if that bill goes unpaid, it can eventually put your Medicare coverage at risk. Harold in Sarasota found this out when his benefit dropped to almost nothing for 3 months because of extra income, and a Medicare premium bill showed up in his mailbox that he was not expecting on top of the Social Security reduction he already knew about. Here is what to do. If you know your Social Security payment is going to shrink or hit zero for part of the year because of the earnings test, call 1-800-MEDICARE, that is 1-800-633-4227, and set up Medicare Easy Pay so your premium comes out of your bank account directly instead of depending on a Social Security check that may not be big enough to cover it. The last piece of this puzzle is taxes, and this is the part that catches high earners the hardest. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can be counted as taxable income on your federal return. And whether that happens depends on something called your combined income, which is your adjusted gross income, plus any tax-exempt interest, plus half of your Social Security benefit for the year. For a single filer, once that combined income crosses $25,000, up to half of your benefit becomes taxable. Cross $34,000, and up to 85% of your benefit becomes taxable. Here is the part nobody in Washington wants to advertise. Those thresholds, $25,000 and $34,000, have not been adjusted for inflation since the 1980s. They never go up, even while everything else does. That means every extra dollar you earn from part-time work while collecting Social Security does double duty against you. It can trigger the earnings test, withholding we already talked about. And separately, it can push more of your remaining benefit into taxable territory on your federal return. Here is what to do. Before you accept extra hours, a bonus, or a new part-time contract, use the IRS worksheet in Publication 915, or ask a tax preparer to run your specific combined income number before the year ends, not after you file. Knowing where you stand against $25,000 and $34,000 before December lets you decide whether one more shift or one more contract is actually worth it once the tax bill and the earnings test both take their share. Let's bring this all together, because I know that was a lot of numbers. If you are collecting Social Security before your full retirement age and still earning income, the limit this year is $24,380, and you lose $1 of benefit for every $2 over that. If you are turning your full retirement age sometime in 2026, call and get the higher $65,160 limit applied only to your months before that birthday. If your income changes at all during the year, update your earnings estimate with Social Security immediately, so you are not blindsided by an overpayment letter. Remember that whatever gets withheld is not lost forever. It comes back to you as a permanently higher monthly check once you hit full retirement age. If your Social Security check shrinks because of this rule, set up Medicare Easy Pay so your Part B premium keeps getting paid without a surprise bill in your mailbox. Check your combined income against $25,000 and $34,000 before the year ends. So, you know how much of your benefit is about to become taxable before it happens, instead of after. And if this is your very first year collecting Social Security, ask specifically for the monthly earnings test, because that single phone call could be worth thousands of dollars this year alone. One quick note before we close. This video is for general information only. It is not personalized financial, legal, or tax advice, and your specific numbers can vary based on your work history, your benefit type, and decisions made by the Social Security Administration in your individual case. Call 1-800-772-1213 or visit your local Social Security office to confirm exactly how these rules apply to you. If you know one person you love who is over 62 and still working while collecting Social Security, send them this video right now. A 10-minute phone call to Social Security could be the difference between losing thousands of dollars this year and keeping every dollar they earned. This channel exists for one reason: to make sure Florida seniors get every dollar the system already owes them, whether the